Labdien! Labdien, godātie eksperti, labdien, godātie pašvaldību vadītāji, cienītās pašvaldību vadītājs. Tie, kas ir šeit klātienē, tie, kas ir mums pieslēgušies attālināti. Mums šodien ir tā iespēja uzklausīt ekspertus par to, kas notiek, vai savu redzējumu, kas notiek Latvijā. Pavērtēt šos ieteikumus, kādi ir radušies, un, protams, neapstāties pie tā, kas ir šobrīd arī koncertēts, turpināt darbu un meklēt labāko risinājumu šī gadījumā, kas vajadzīgs gan Latvijai, un vēl jau vairāk no mūsu skatījuma, kas ir vajadzīgs tieši pašvaldībām. Jā, un tad es dodu vārdu ekspertiem ziņojumam.
Thank you very much for inviting us, for organizing this event. We think that this is a very good opportunity to engage among stakeholders and the wider public, and I think we should continue our very good cooperation that already started in the preparation of this survey. So I'm here today with Enes Tünel, my colleague. We together work on Germany and Latvia and have prepared this report. First slide, you see here that actually the convergence of living standards with the OECD average has slowed down after the financial crisis in Latvia, and even compared to Lithuania and Estonia. And this was due to several factors. Here you see potential growth in Latvia divided by its different factors. The green bars is the accumulation of capital stock, which is driven by investment. And you see that investment has been much lower after the financial crisis than before. So this is a main factor for lower growth and lower convergence of living standards. And we have a whole chapter that is dedicated on this topic, which we will go into more detail later on. But you also see that a slowing working population growth and even a decreasing working age population has also reduced potential growth. So this is related to skilled labor shortages and also high net out migration, which was a big problem in the last 20 years. And you also see in this graph, the yellow bars is labor efficiency. So also the labor productivity and the efficiency of labor and innovation have been actually decreasing since the global financial crisis. So there are several areas where Latvia has to improve to, again, improve living standards towards the OECD average. One big factor for weak investment actually has been also weak public investment. Although public investment has grown, it's lower than in other OECD countries that are comparable. And this is related to financing. So there's too little resources that are dedicated to public investment, but there's also an implementation issue. So a lot of investment projects are actually under the responsibility of municipalities, and there's still room for improvement, for improving infrastructure planning, maybe joining also resources across municipalities to better implement investment projects. And use synergies across municipalities, but we will go into more detail later. One first point we want to make is about strengthening public finances and improving the public sector capacity to improve public investment, but also to improve the quality of other public services. There is room in Latvia to finance rising spending pressures in defense and internal security due to the war, but also public infrastructure investments and necessary spending in health and education sectors by higher tax revenue. So tax revenue at the moment is 4 percentage points below the OECD average. So Latvia has a tax burden of around 30% of GDP, while the OECD average is at about 34%. And we say in the survey that there is room to increase tax revenue from property taxes, so property tax revenue, and I will come later more in detail with that, is lower than the OECD average, but there's also room to increase corporate income taxes. So the corporate income tax regime in Latvia allows companies to not pay any corporate income tax if they retain their earnings, if they don't distribute their profits and keep them in the company. This can be a good incentive to invest, but we have to make sure that this important spending of the government, so it's lost revenues, is really leading to good objectives and to really more investment in companies. So far, we had a lot of crises in the last 3-4 years, so maybe the evaluation of the system is not yet possible, but in the next 2-3 years, you should closely evaluate this system to see whether it's really bringing the objectives it was created for, because Latvia gets much less revenue from corporate income taxes than other countries. So there's also room actually to raise revenue from there. And another point I will make now is here on personal income taxes. If you look at the progressivity of personal income taxes, Latvia is the country with the red bar on the slide. You see that the average rates for lower income earners are relatively high. But if you look at the higher incomes, which is here 133, is 33% higher than the average wage, and 167 shows you the wage, which is 67% higher than the average wage. The average tax rates are much lower actually than in other OECD countries. So you have some room actually to improve progressivity for higher incomes, to collect more tax revenue for improving public services and investing more in public infrastructure projects. But that's one part of the equation. There's also other important factors. Just to complement the discussion on the property tax revenue, which we discussed in detail also with your organization. So one precondition to increase property tax revenue is to update cadastre value with market values of property. So far, it's quite discretionary. If you look at the cadastre value map, there's no link to the true value of property for a lot of real estate objects, and increasing tax rates would just increase inequality at the moment. So this is not good. So first you have to update the cadastre values with market values. Okay. And here's another important graph, which now relates much more directly to the problem that you face. So we also discussed in the survey, and we discussed this with you before, the share of tax revenue that is allocated to municipalities has actually decreased in the recent years. At the same time that more responsibilities have been given to you in the territorial reform. So there is a need to better finance municipalities. So we absolutely agree. Then the question is how you do that. Here you see that in Latvia, actually a high share of municipality spending is financed by conditional grants, which is the yellow bars here. We don't have the OECD comparison now, but compared to other countries, Latvia has a much higher share of conditional grants financing municipality expenditure than other countries. And research has shown that actually these conditional grants are not as effective as other mode of financing, because the local population can hold governance much less accountable if the money comes from somewhere else. It's actually better that the municipality has some proper resources, some own resources that it can raise, so that the local population has a much more direct link with the local government. And should we take questions?
Varbūt šī vietā jūs komentējot šo vietu, kad tiek pievērsta uzmanība, kad tie mēģi dotācijas sastāda lielāku daļu pašvaldībām. Tālāk jūs rakstat, ka liela daļa no šīm mēģi dotācijām tiek izmantotas tādām lietām kā darba algas skolotājiem. Tas atbilst patiesībai, bet neatbilst patiesībai, ka tas attiecās uz medicīnas darbiniekiem, jo medicīnas darbinieki nestrādā pašvaldību iestādēs, bet strādā uzņēmumos, un no uzņēmumiem valsts pērk pakalpojumu, nevis maksā algas. Tas vienu gadu krīzes laikā nedaudz attiecās uz sociālajiem darbiniekiem, bet patiesībā sociālajiem darbiniekiem algas maksā no šī iedzīvotāja ienākuma nodokļu pamatā, jeb no izlīdzināšanas, nevis no valsts dotācijām. Tas daļēji attiecās gan uz investīcijām, kā jūs rakstat, taču neattiecās uz pašvaldības ceļu uzturēšanu. Pašvaldības ceļu uzturēšana nenotiek no mērķu dotācijām. Tas neattiecās uz publisko transportu, ko maksā pašvaldības, jo pašvaldībām to jāmaksā pašām no saviem ieņēmumiem, un tas neattiecās uz sociālo palīdzību, ko sniedz pašvaldības, ko jāmaksā atkal no saviem ieņēmumiem. Un tā viena problēma, kas rodās, ka ja tiek palielināta šī progresivitāte tieši iedzīvotāju ienākumu nodoklī, un iedzīvotāju ienākumu nodoklis ir lielākā daļa no šo pamatfunkciju finansēšanas avotiem, tad tām pašvaldībām, kurās ir mazāka vidējā alga, viņas tiek sodītas, jo viņām vairs nav no kā maksāt. Nav no kā maksāt šos te uzskaitītos izdevumus. Un tie uzskaitītie izdevumi nav iespējams pēc Latvijas likumiem viņus finansēt no mērķu dotācijām, viņas ir jāfinansē tieši no šiem pamatieņēmumiem. Un šeit ir viena problēma. Var pilnīgi piekrist labiem nodomiem attiecībā uz sociālo lietām, uz nabadzības likvidēšanu un citām lietām, bet tīri praktiski tā, ka ja gribētu šādi rīkoties, tad ir jāpārtaisa visa likumdošanas sistēma, jāmaina visas institucionālā kārtība, kādā finansē pašvaldības, jo pretējā gadījumā būs krahs. Un acīm redzot, kaut kur sarunās ar ministrijām tas tomēr ir pagājis garām.
Yeah, so we completely agree that there's a problem, yeah? But the solution obviously needs to be found in a dialogue in Latvia. What we can say from the experience of other countries is that it's important to have a kind of stable and previsible funding base for municipalities. So one solution would be to have a higher share in personal income tax revenue, or even from the value-added tax revenue. So some other countries even give part of the value-added tax revenue to municipalities. But this is part of a negotiation, of the national negotiation, and has to be decided between local governments and the central government. And also depending on the type of functions, the type of core functions that are actually dedicated to municipalities. But what the argument that we want to make is that further using conditional transfers is not a good idea. It's better to have a kind of a more fixed revenue, which is not directly linked to certain functions. For infrastructure investment, there's some argument to do it like that, but for the other functions like education and so on, it's a better way of to have a kind of more previsible, like general funding base. Okay, but we can discuss this also then afterwards in the discussion. Another, I'm still talking about increasing revenue for improving public services. We still have two other points on that, but the last point we want to make on that is that informality is another big problem, actually, where you lose a lot of tax revenue that you could use for financing public services and improving services quality. Informality has not decreased in Latvia since a long time, although you had a lot of plans of how to tackle that. And we think that it's very important first to improve enforcement. So there needs to be more resources, better digital tools for the State Revenue Service to detect fraud and to be able to link data throughout different databases. So far, the single identifier for firms and individuals is still not implemented to our knowledge. Maybe there has been some improvement in the last weeks or months, but to our knowledge, this is still not there. And this is important. And another point is also to improve prosecution. So in the last economic survey, we make the point that the high fines that have been introduced for tax evasion and fraud have to be actually also implemented. So there's still some lack in enforcement. to improve the fight against informality. And the second major point is actually, and this is something we could discuss then in the discussion round, other countries have had positive experiences in fighting informality when they actually reduced the high burden for low wage earners. So in Latvia, you see here on the left-hand side, the tax burden for low wage earners, which is like 67% of the average wage, is much higher than in the OECD average country. So there is actually a quite high tax burden for the people that are very on the left of the wage distribution. And to formalize work for them is really very costly compared to other countries. And if you reduce this burden a bit, by financing this through general tax revenue reform, also more progressivity for higher incomes, increasing property tax revenues, increasing corporate income tax revenues, increasing environmental taxes is another recommendation we have in the survey. This would allow you to reduce the social security contributions for low wage earners and improve incentives to formalize work for them. And this then also increases the tax base. So Colombia is an example that we cite in the survey that had a positive experience, but Lithuania is also a good example. Actually, they have started to finance their minimum pension through general tax revenue and not through the Social Security Fund anymore, 2 or 3 years ago, and this allowed them to lower Social Security contributions somewhat. So that could be also something that Latvia could think about, like trying to finance the minimum pension through the general tax revenue. And the third point for fighting informality is raising trust in institutions. So Latvia is still very low across the OECD in trust in institutions, and this is something where people also have a low motivation than to pay taxes. If they don't trust in the institutions and in the public services that are provided, they also have a low tax moral. So this is another point where Latvia needs to improve, and we have some discussion on how to improve the fight against corruption. Okay. But then the second major point is to improve the capacity of the public sector. So on one hand side, you need to raise more tax revenue, but then you also need to improve the capacity of the public sector to spend the money efficiently and effectively and to do good policies with the money it has. You see here that actually the digitalization of the public sector has actually been already quite good. So there has been a lot of improvements in latest years. In the survey, we also show some other graphs that show that the time for opening up a company, for getting a construction permit has been reduced in the last years, also due to the use of digital services. So this is a positive thing. But if you look at policy impact evaluation, which is important to decide whether policies actually are effective and whether you should continue spending for a certain policy or whether you should reduce spending for a certain policy, we see actually here Latvia being much lower than the OECD average in an indicator on regulatory governance, which is on ex post policy impact evaluation. And you see that the evaluation of primary laws and subordinate regulations is weak in Latvia because of weak methodology for impact evaluation and also weak oversight and quality control. So you have a lack of digital tools and also knowledge among public employees to conduct proper evaluations of policies. And also the linkage of data, again, is a problem. So if you want to evaluate a policy, whether, for example, energy support measures, that is not only a problem for local governments, but it's also a problem of the national government. For example, if you look at the energy support measures, there was actually a lot of money that was spent 2022, which in general is good and it was very important, but some of the measures were not well targeted actually to vulnerable households. So you had actually a lot of money that also went to quite well-off households. And if you have better data infrastructure and better evaluation of ex-ante evaluation of policies, you can save a lot of money and have the same outcome on inequality or like on improving living standards. And another important fact relates to the human capital and the capacity of the workforce, which has suffered in the last 10 years after the financial crisis. There was a lot of reduction in the public sector because of financing problems. So wages have actually been much lower than in the private sector, which led to a lot of turnover and loss of human capital, especially for higher skilled professionals. So here we see the public sector wage premium for professionals, which is like all kinds of IT professionals, but also like experts on certain topics like health. Or if you look at their wages compared to the wages that formal employees in the private sector earn, they are around 20% lower. And this is a problem because you want to have people stay and accumulate knowledge about the policies and make the policies better later again. But if the one if changes every 2 years or every 1 year, this is bad. So you need also to improve the wages and the working conditions in the public sector. And having said that, oh, sorry, I forgot one slide, but I will say it in words. There is also room, as to finance this, there's also room for some relocation of spending. As we say, tax revenue can be increased, you can spend better and more efficient, but you can also reallocate spending. And one example, for example, and this is something we should discuss then later on with you, is that the territorial reform of 2021 might have also created some opportunities to use synergies across municipalities that have been merged. So maybe there's also room for gradually reducing the number of public employees in certain areas where synergies can be used, but in the central level as well. So in the central government level as well, there's a lot of duplication. And for example, innovation agencies, there's 2 different innovation agencies that could be merged. And also in the public procurement area, there's room for centralizing public procurement across ministries at the federal level. So there's also some room for consolidating the public sector, not in a very short time period, but in the longer time period. And on the wage bill as well, there's the possibility to reallocate spending towards higher skilled occupations. Because if you would look at the public wage premium for lower skilled occupations, you would see a positive wage premium. So at least in the data set that we have, you see that clerks or like assistants positions have a better pay than in the private sector. So you could reallocate as well a little bit the spending within. Okay. That's it on the topic of public sector capacity. And now I come to one important factor for improving investment, which is fostering business dynamism and innovation. We see here that private investment in Latvia as public investment has been much lower than in Baltic neighbors. You see here the red line is private investment for Latvia has been lagging Estonia and Lithuania. That is related to relatively weak dynamism in the economy. For example, here we see small firms that across countries grow relatively high. So this is the upper part of the distribution of firms that is already very active or grow relatively quickly. They still grow much slower than in other countries. So you see in Latvia, the small firms, you have a lot of small firms, but those small firms, they also don't grow very quickly. And they also, that is what you see here, do not innovate as much as on the OECD average. So this shows you the percentage of small and medium enterprises which innovates production lines, or like, there's a definition, it's a kind of a EU innovation community survey, which introduces new processes or marketing of products. And you see that innovation is relatively less than the OECD. This is somewhere where you have to get more active. And this has consequences also for productivity. And here we see multi-factor productivity on average for Latvia and comparison countries, which include a lot of Eastern European countries. And you see that in sectors that are in general less digitalized across the OECD, productivity has kept on very well. But if you look at the sectors that in other OECD countries have been actually more and more digitalized in the last years, productivity in Latvia is lacking. So that shows you that digital adoption actually has been lacking, and this is one problem also for low productivity in Latvia. Another, or like, and now what is the solution, or what is actually the main factors for this this problem? It's a complex story, and we have like elaborated in the survey on that. But we think the 2 main problems are there. Like informality is something I already showed you. So you have a very high informality, and this is a problem for innovation and also for investment, because if a firm is informal or partly informal, it's much harder to receive a loan. So informal firms have problems with access to credit. They also have actually much lower incentives in training their workers and much less resources, also because they are small. So that's another point I will come back later. And the third point is it's also actually a problem for the level playing field and competition. So if for example, in the construction sector, you have a lot of firms that probably are using informal wage payments. And if a new entry in a foreign company wants to enter the market and wants to also construct houses or participate in infrastructure implementation and has like a kind of a strict policy not to be able to participate in informal economy, it cannot actually enter the Latvian market because it cannot compete with these artificially low costs. So it also is a problem for competition and innovation and productivity growth. So informality is something which is really, really bad, not only for the budget, but also for business dynamism and innovation. And the second main problem you see here is actually competition enforcement. So we see on the left-hand side an indicator from the OECD which compares across countries the competition friendliness of regulation. It's called the product market regulation. And we see that competition enforcement, or like the competition assessment of regulation in Latvia, has improved in the last 5 years, but it's still worse than in the OECD average, and is a little bit counterintuitive. And a higher value here means more restrictive and is negative. So a smaller value here means actually being better. And the problem is that the Competition Council in Latvia cannot actually initiate any investigation about regulation that impacts competition or that negatively impacts competition. So in other countries, the competition authority, like in Spain and Italy, has actually the power to start investigations and then to challenge regulations in court that hamper competition.
Konkurences padomu vēlēšanās uzlikt konkrētus pienākumus. Cik man zināms, tad starp OECD valstīm ir tikai dažas valstis, kurās ir šādas tiesības kompetences konkurences padomei. Vairākumā dalību valstu nav tāda tiesība uzlikt obligātus pienākumus, vai ir savādāk? Jo bija tur 3-4 valstis, bija nosauktas no 80.
You're right, it's not every OECD country that has that, but it's important countries like Italy and Spain and some other new members as well. But for sure, I mean, there's a lot of OECD countries that can also improve their competition enforcement. But another point, but we can discuss this afterwards for sure. What would be an argument against it? So we think it would be really a good way forward, because lobbying of interest groups is something that can influence regulation, and you also don't have a lobby register yet. So let's discuss later maybe. And on the right-hand side, you see barriers in services sectors are still higher than in other OECD countries. So there's also room for reducing entry barriers, which can be regulation related, for example, the construction sector, but it can also be related actually to the strong presence of state-owned enterprises, which per se is not something which the OECD views as negative. So if there's a clear rationale for state ownership, and if those criteria are well defined, it's fine. It's only important to manage these companies well, and so we have some recommendations on that. But it's also important to ensure competitive neutrality of state-owned enterprises, and that's also something where the Competition Council needs to be strengthened, so that it's able to initiate investigations on the effect of state ownership and SOEs on competition.
Drīkst vēl viena piezīme. Mums pašvaldības savienībā šis jautājums tika apspriests daudzos sadarbības tīklos un daudzkārt. Un mēs pilnīgi piekrītam un vienmēr esam aizstāvējuši to ideju, ka konkurences neutralitāte ir jāpastiprina un jāpanāk, bet mums ir otrāds iespējas, ka Latvijā pašlaik daudz vairāk tiek pārkāptas valsts un pašvaldību uzņēmumu tiesības un iespējas nekā privātu uzņēmumu. Ka mums ir nobīde no konkurences neutralitātes gluži pretējā virzienā. Jo tie daudzi ierobežojumi, kas tiek uzlikti, tā skaitā milzu birokrātiskās procedūras, pašvaldības uzņēmumiem traucē šiem uzņēmumiem attīstīties, traucē būt inovatīviem un traucē konkurēt. Un var godīgi konkurenci, protams, ka pašvaldības savienība ir ar abām rokām. Jebkurā gadījumā tas būtu ļoti labi nostiprināt šo konkurences neutralitāti un padarīt tiešām vienādus spēles noteikumus.
Completely agree, yeah. And now the second priority for investment, like for improving investment in Latvia, before I give the word to Enes, who will speak on access to finance issues, which is also a very important issue. So addressing labor and skill shortages is something that is also key to improve investment. Here you see that the number of vacancies in red has increased over the last 10 years, and it's unfilled vacancies. It's vacancies that are already unfilled for a certain time period, I think 6 months or 8 months. And at the same time, the unemployment rate has decreased, which is good. But the fact that you still have an unemployment rate of 6.7 or 6.8%, while so much vacancies cannot be filled, signals that there are skill mismatch and skill shortages in the labor market. So some unemployed apparently don't have the skills that are needed in the labor market. And there's also a regional dimension to that. The unemployment are concentrated in regions where the vacancies are not that high. So important is actually to improve the mismatch to reduce the mismatch in the labor market is to improve active labor market policies, to raise the domestic labor supply potential. You see here that Latvia is spending much less than the OECD average and also other Baltic countries on active labor market policies, for example, training, employment incentives, or also employment services. And so in general, the spending needs to increase, but also the efficiency or like the targeting of those measures needs to be improved. So in the local labor market, it's important that the local employment agencies is strongly cooperating with local employers and develop some skill assessment systems to target the training that is provided to the unemployed better to the needs of the local businesses. Exactly. So. But it's also actually a problem of the workforce in general. It's not only the unemployed, but it's also a lack of digital skills in the whole workforce that hinders digital adoption of digital technologies. And one main problem is why things are not improving so much is actually that the investment of firms in vocational training courses is very low. In Latvia, it's much lower than the EU average, and this has several reasons. Like one reason is that you have many small firms, and coordination among small firms is much more difficult, and also the small firms have less fixed resources to invest in training. So if you only have like 4 or 5 people and you need to get one to train a new one, then you lose already 25% of your workforce. So coordination is very important to improve this situation. Also, because poaching is a problem. So a lot of the firms actually, they also fear that if they invest in training and the worker just goes to the next firm in 2 months, then they lose this investment. So coordination among firms within the sector to jointly finance vocational education and training is one solution that, for example, in Germany works very well. I mean, it's not easy to implement the same institution in another country right away. It will probably take time, but coordination is really the key in Latvia because only 50 or even less than 50% of firms are organized in business associations. So first, like trying to to coordinate better across firms, and then to be in a dialogue with the unions and with the other stakeholders, and better organize the existing training equipment and the existing training capacity is very important. And then we also say to engage firms better, the planned skill funds or training funds could actually be a way of engaging firms, and because if they pay something for this skill fund, they also will actually follow up much more on training of their workforce and will provide the training. Okay, and another important point is health outcomes. So if you have a shrinking working population and at the same time your healthy life years at birth are the worst in the OECD. So like for men, it's 52, and for women, it's 55. This is something you want to change to make more of your domestic labor force potential. And this is about improving the quality of the health system, but it's also about reducing detrimental behavior such as alcohol consumption, tobacco, which is very, very high in Latvia and needs to be improved through preventive measures. And if you could succeed in improving health outcomes, that would enable older people that have already accumulated more experience and that have a lot of skills to work longer, and would also help reduce the number of sick days taken by workers, which is actually also very high in Latvia, but it's related to bad and worse health outcomes than in other countries. Second last slide from my side. Labor supply is also very much related to education in the future and like labor supply in the future. And Latvia in general has a relatively good education system when it comes to educate the average pupil reasonably well. I think the average PISA score is even a little bit above the OECD average. But if you look at the top performers, Latvia has still room for improvement. And this is also related to teaching quality and to improving teacher training, and also like tackling skilled labor shortage in the teaching profession. And again, this is about working conditions, about improving the attractivity of the job. Yeah, then, so we have a long list about the labor shortages, and I will finish in a second. Also, motivating young women to study fields which are in high shortages in the labor market could be one part of the solution. So you have actually a lot of women that don't study STEM subjects, or also like IT related jobs, or like informatic or natural science related jobs, where the returns in the labor market are very high, and like changing the role model, or like trying to improve in the lower secondary education, the information for pupils, and motivating young women also to study subjects in high demand would help reduce labor shortages. And then last but not least, skilled migration is for sure also a factor which is important. You see that net migration has been negative in Latvia for a long time and was just turning positive due to the influx of Ukrainian refugees. And in the short run, solving some of the large shortage issues, for example, in the construction sector or also in the health sector, some regulated skilled migration could help. And there we come to some obstacles to this skilled migration, which is restrictions at the occupation level on education competences, also including languages. And Latvia could actually relax some of those requirements upfront and require then the build-up of those competences in 2 or 3 years to facilitate migration of skilled workers. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Robert, for passing the floor. So at this part of our presentation, I would like to refer to the third key policy priority that we discuss in the economic survey, which is improving Latvian firms' access to finance. We see that during the recovery of the global financial crisis, credit to firms has increased, has picked up in the Baltic neighbors of Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania, we see. And this is also a pattern in the rest of the European Union. However, credit provision to firms has continued to decline drastically, actually more than 40 percentage points in Latvia. And this is actually cited as a big problem by Latvian firms, a major obstacle to investment. And here in this chart, we actually see that Latvia is the European Union country in which the share of firms that cite the lack of availability of finance a major obstacle to investment. So it's a very visible problem from the perspective of firms. Then coming to the reasons as to why credit has been inadequately provided to Latvian firms, we observe that Latvian banks have been very reluctant to lend despite a very strong deposit pay basis. They had the resources to be able to make loans, but we see that this is not the case. Actually, when we compare Latvia with the other European Union countries, it's only after Greece, the country with the lowest loan to deposit ratio. Only about half of total deposits that were put at banks, Latvian banks, are converted into loans. So the funds, the money that Latvians deposit do not find its way to finance productive investments in the Latvian economy. And one reason that we identified in our analysis why banks are reluctant to lend in Latvia is the administrative burden of lending. And for two reasons, for economic risk aversion and for reputational risk aversion of banks. So the aftermath of global financial crisis was plagued with a large number of bankruptcies and a low asset recovery ratio, which hurt banks' balance sheets. And there were also significant money laundering and corruption cases in the past. So these factors made banks extremely risk averse. And as we see on the left panel here, this created an administrative burden in the cost of making loans. And when we look at the right side, we see that while cost of making loans were declining in the Baltic countries and rest of the Euro area, they remained relatively high. So therefore, a key recommendation that the survey is making is to improve risk management procedures in banks, continuously train Bank of Latvia staff who engage with financial institutions, and also require adequate training in compliance officials at financials in the financial sector, so that this unnecessary administrative burden is not working as a cost push for banks. And there were also some improvements, like the establishment of economic court in Latvia. So this streamlined substantially the insolvency procedures. And it also reduced anti-money laundering risks, because the recent Bank of Latvia data is showing that amount of assets at risk is already going down. Therefore, these beneficial reforms should be taken as a basis to lend more, to finance more productive investments in the Latvian economy. However, unfortunately, that has not been the case, and lending rates faced by firms in Latvia have been much higher than other Euro area countries. And in the survey, we are discussing this lost decade, actually, before the pandemic, that in which European Central Bank was easing financial conditions substantially. However, that did not pass through enough to the lending conditions, financing conditions in Latvia. And this is also similar in the other Baltic countries, but we see the situation really problematic in Latvia, in addition to this administrative burden working as a cost push on making loans. And when the monetary policy cycle turned the other way around, we see that lending rates very quickly increased in all Baltic countries, including Latvia. And then this actually takes us to see the importance of raising competition in the banking sector. So this cost push from administrative burden is making lending rates high, But when we also look at the markup ratios of the Latvian banking system, which is what banks charge on top of their costs, whatever their costs are coming from, these markup ratios are high, very high in Baltic countries and in Latvia relative to the euro area, average euro area economy. Therefore, another key recommendation that we make is to boost competition in the financial sector, make it easy to switch between banks for borrowers. There are some useful developments, beneficial developments in this area, especially in the mortgage loan market. But these policies are not yet reflecting loans that are borrowed by corporations, by firms. So there's still room to go, and also strengthening the powers and monitoring tools of Competition Council to see whether there's any anti-competitive behavior in the financial sector is key in our view. There were other OECD countries like Portugal, where Competition Council really intervened with lending rate setting patterns, which actually allowed land setting to be more competitive after these interventions of the Competition Council. And then there is the other side of the coin, which is the non-bank finance availability in Latvia, which we also see the situation to be really problematic. In this chart, we show a summary indicator, basically a stock market capitalization ratio, and see that Latvia is only second after Slovakia to have a really very shallow equity capitalization. And the inclusion of MSCI Baltic Index, for instance, is a good development. It would boost visibility of Latvia, but more needs to be done. And one key lever here is to accelerate plans to list minority stakes of large state-owned enterprises, not necessarily by fully privatizing them, but just to listing some part of them to both increase their corporate governance and also provide some debt to the equity market. And in the corporate bond issuance side, there's a similar picture. Although Latvian market is a bit greater than, larger than the equity market in this case, it is still comparing with a smaller capitalization relative to other euro area countries. And here it is important to reduce administrative burden to issue corporate bonds and improve the financial literacy, especially of smaller firms. And actually, Bank of Latvia, in cooperation with State Revenue Service, can cooperate to make use of very detailed granular credit register data to help firms obtain some low-cost creditworthiness information. And in terms of boosting non-bank finance, we approach the problem really from both sides. So it would not be only adequate to push firms to issue more equities or issue more bonds. One has to think about the demand side of this market as well. There has to be a buyer of these securities, which will be newly issued by the real sector. And here we recommend in the survey that Latvian pension funds actually, despite they have a very strong base, 6 percentage points of all gross wages are going into second pillar pension funds, which are partly managed by the same private banks who do not lend enough in the economy. Those are welcome to purchase more of these newly issued equities and bonds of Latvian real sector. And this would, we argue, also improve the rate of return, the very low rate of return that pension fund managers in Latvia performed compared with the other OECD countries. Sure, yeah. Here we are showing the average rate of return over the last 15 years. And the reason why Latvia has this very drastic negative number is the super high spike in inflation after the energy crisis. But also the other side of the coin is the quality of the asset portfolio. If the common intuition is that capital markets are shallow in Latvia, and it's an advanced economy, assets will not be diverted. So with shallow markets, rates of return will be higher. Therefore, if those pension funds invest more in Latvia, they can both support the development of the domestic capital market, but at the same time, they could improve their returns. We actually observe when we do a comparative analysis in some of the high-performing countries like Australia, Iceland, and Netherlands, limits that do not allow pension funds to invest in single issuer assets or domestic issuers are much relaxed compared to Latvia. Therefore, we recommend those investment rules to get closer to the best performing countries in the OECD. Since we have a question.
Drīkstāt vienu ieteikumu, jo no darba spēka nodokļiem lielākā daļa darba spēka nodokļu ir sociālās apdrošināšanas daļa. Un mums tas ieteikums būtu rūpīgāk skatīt iespējas šai daļā, kad būs nākošā OECD pētījums, jo šeit vismaz Latvijā mums ir diskusijas starp pašvaldības savienību un daudzām valdībām no 2009. gada. Un mēs daudzkārt norādījām uz to, ka otrā līmeņa pensiju fondi ir ļoti neefektīvi Latvijā, ļoti neefektīvi. Patiesībā pirmā līmeņa pensijas iedzīvotājiem ir nesalīdzinoši izdevīgāks. Turklāt, ja neprot šos pensiju fondus menedžēt, tad daudz vieglāk ir no viņiem atteikties, ko, piemēram, izdarīja Igaunija un izdarījušas arī dažas citas valsts, kā, piemēram, Polija. Un šeit tā ir liela rezerve, kas varētu risināt ļoti daudzas fiskālas problēmas valstī. Jo pašlaik nākās mākslīgi lielu daļu no sociālās apdrošināšanas nodokļiem nākās izmantot, lai sektu patiesībā zaudējums no otrā pensiju fonda.
Sure, yeah, I understand very well the concern. But probably in our way, the better way to follow is not to fully phase out these pension funds, but to use them as a lever to really develop domestic capital markets, and which is really not the case. Their investment portfolio is now only 10% invested in Latvian assets, and the rest is just going probably, we don't have granular data on their individual investment portfolios, but most probably they're just going to other European Union countries. So phasing them out is, you want to add something?
In the end, it's a political decision, but I think the experience of other countries shows that it's also good to have a public system as it is, but also to have another privately funded system on the side. So completely phasing out, I think, it would be not something that we would recommend, but it's better to use this existing funds to develop domestic capital markets. And just to add on that, this graph actually shows you that they have hedged the inflation risks very badly. So it's really, as we don't have data on where the investments have been made, but they have been surely not made in Latvia, because then they would have been hedged better against inflation. So they can really improve their performance.
And also in terms of phasing them out, an unwanted byproduct of that would be to increase the problem of sovereign and pension funds nexus. So the Latvian public finances are not in danger. It's not a very high government debt country, but converting all these pension funds into the funds that buy government bonds could create adverse incentives for government in terms of fiscal policy discipline. So the government may want to borrow a lot and just dump all those bonds on domestic pension funds. So maybe for that matter, the unavailability of that is a discipline device on the central government as well. But the point is well taken. It's clear that their performances are not enough. And the way to go, in our view, is to make their investment rules more in line with better performing OECD countries with private funds. So with that, we actually finish the presentation here. Our main messages are strengthening public finances, improving public sector capacity. I will not, take a lengthy time to read. And on the real sector side, boosting investment, raising investment to support growth is paramountly important for Latvia, and that has three main legs. Improving business dynamism and innovation, improving Latvian firms' access to finance, and addressing skilled labor shortages to raise the potential growth of Latvia. And with that, I would like to stop, and we're happy to get your questions.
Jā, pirmkārt, paldies par šo informāciju. Un, man liekas, tas, ko jūs teicāt, parāda vai pierāda, ka daudz gadu garumā varbūt nav pieņemti tie pareizākie lēmumi. Un tie secinājumi ir šobrīd jāizdara, ka Latvija daudzās jomās varēja vairāk. Man liekas, mēs esam viensprātis ar jūsu konstatēto, ka ir jānodrošina pašvaldībām pietiekams un stabils vai pietiekami un stabili ieņēmumu avoti. Protams, mēs skatāmies, ka vērtēti ir 2022. Gada dati. Bet šeit jau parādās arī šī iedzīvotāja ienākuma nodokļa samazināšana par 5%. Ja salīdzinoši no 2018. gadā no visiem nodokļu ieņēmumiem atskaitot valsts sociālās apdrošināšanas iemaksas pašvaldībām bija 19,6%. Tad šogad mums ir palikuši vairs tikai 16,2%. Protams, nākot arī vēl papildus obligātām funkcijām, kas ir šobrīd arī pašvaldībām jādara. 2022. gads bija tas, kad valsts radīja vēl speciālu dotāciju tām pašvaldībām, kas bija kuram īpaši pietrūka līdzekļi. Tas bija nepilns miljons. Salīdzinoši 2024. gadā šis process ir turpinājies, un šī īpašā dotācija ir 7 miljoni tām pašvaldībām, lai spētu izdzīvot. Vienkārši ar kritēriju maiņu, ar izlīdzināšanā rezultāti nebūs. Mēs šobrīd runājam par to, kad ir jānodrošina šis stabilais finansējums pašvaldību pusē, un bez valsts līdzdalības tas nav iespējams. Jo būtībā šobrīd mūsu izlīdzināšana ir tāda kā pašpalīdzības kase, kur no vienām pašvaldībām paņem un otrām iedod. Varbūt tas arī radīs, ko arī jūs esat konstatējuši, ka publiskā pārvaldē ir zems uzticēšanās līmenis. Un zems uzticēšanās līmenis valsts pārvaldē. Tas var būt rezultāts šiem soļiem vai nepareizu lēmumu pieņemšanas rezultāts. Bet arī šeit mēs esam runājuši, ka valsts pārvaldei, lai strādātu efektīvāk, lai pierādītu savu varēšanu, ir daudz vairāk varbūt jāpaļaujās uz pašvaldībām. Uz pašvaldībām, kur šis uzticēšanās līmenis neskatoties uz samazināto finansējumu, neskatoties uz problēmām, ir ļoti augsts. Mēs saprotam, ka eksporta spējīgi uzņēmumi ir pilnīgi visā Latvijas teritorijā. Rīga, Pierīga tie ir ļoti daudz, bet šie uzņēmumi ir visā valstī. Un tad arī šeit būtu jābūt tam redzējumam, kādā veidā attīstīt ekonomiku, kādā veidā veicināt vēl šo eksporta spēju, lai būtu nauda un būtu attiecīgi nodokļi, būtu arī ko dalīt gala rezultātā. Protams, jautājums, faktiski divas tādas galējības. Viens jautājums ir par galvaspilsētas statusu, kas ir Rīga, un kurš ir lielākais maksātājs izlīdzināšanas fondā. Un otrs jautājums ir par pierobežas pašvaldībām, kuras jau vairs nav tikai šis Latgales reģions, kur arī ir Vidzeme, Kurzeme. Faktiski reģionos ir arī citas teritorijas, kur faktiski šis finansējums ir nepietiekams. Mums ir vēl papildus jārada mehānisms, kas būtībā spētu izraut Latviju arī reģionālo atšķirību ziņā, faktiski no vienām kā pēdējās vietas Eiropas Savienībā, kas vēl palicis. Jā, varbūt šobrīd tas ir viss.
Yeah, there were a lot of very important remarks. I think, the federal fiscal system was not analyzed in extreme detail, but we think that there's for sure room for improvement. And actually, we have also invited Latvia to join the fiscal federal network. So the OECD has also a working group on fiscal federal relations and how to best design this. And there's an opportunity for Latvia to join this working group and learn from other countries how to design the system. We have talked also to our experts, and some like very preliminary thoughts would be that the equalization fund as such, like the formula, is actually not that bad in general, because it's simple. It can be very easily monitored. So in general, the formula per se is not that badly designed, but for sure it's a question of negotiations and political decisions to provide the necessary funding base for the functions that have been allocated to the local government. So this is really up for negotiating, up for deciding in among the stakeholders and among the population. What could be possible ways of increasing or of having a more stable funding base is what I already mentioned, like a higher share in tax revenues, for example, even like participating in value-added tax revenues. But what could also be a possibility is to allow municipalities to have top-up rates on personal income taxes. This is something that in the US, for example, or in other federal countries exists. There's also a possibility of developing the tax base for the property tax more. So this is something we have in the survey. And what is also important is actually on the spending efficiency side and the governance side within this municipal equalization fund. I guess there's also the problem of the municipalities that give into this fund, seeing other municipalities spending the money for services that they themselves don't pay for their citizens. So to have like more connections and more discussions between the municipalities is also important. To have a kind of a peer learning and a stronger coordination across the municipalities to improve their understanding what are core functions and core services municipalities have to provide, and which has to be ensured by the central government or by the equalization fund that these municipalities have the money, and what is additional services that they can provide if they raise additional funding, or like through taxes and fees and so on. So it's also important to improve peer learning and peer communication across municipalities. And Australia, for example, is a good example where the local governments are much closer interacting during the years and the budget procedures and so on. So this is also something you could learn from Australia, for example.
Ja drīkst, liels paldies par šo darbu. Protams, mazliet žēl, kad valdība jums neļāva vai ierēģi neļāva šo projektu nosūtīt arī pašvaldību savienībai komentēšanai, jo vienkārši viena maza nianse. Latvijā šis jūsu pieminētais, ka pašvaldības var uzlikt klāt iedzīvotāju ienākumu nodokli, faktiski vēsturiski jau bija. Un tas bija iemesls, kāpēc Rīga sāk iekasēt iedzīvotāju ienākumu nodokli, bet pēc tam tas tika noņemts nost. Bet tiešām liels paldies par šo, ka jūs uzsvērāt, ka šie pašvaldību resursi, kas ir pamatresursi pašvaldību funkciju veikšanai, ka ir šī nestabilitāte, nav šis, kā jūs sakat, automātiskais, ka šis minimālais finansējums būs. Un otra lieta, ko es gribētu teikt, kad šajā izlīdzināšanas sistēmā esošajā ir mazliet savādāk, jo šī nenotiek jau diskusija par to, cik šo deficītu mazāk turīgajām pašvaldībām valsts dos, bet šī valsts līdzdalība ir fiksēta. Un šīs deficīts tiek vienkārši paņemts no citu pašvaldību resursiem. Līdz to šī diskusija pat par to, ka nabadzīgāko pašvaldību finanšu nepieciešamību vajadzētu tātad aprēķināt, cik valstī būtu jādod, tas nav šīs esošās. Un tas ir tas, ko pašvaldības savienība saka, ka šie kopējo resursu pietiekamība ir tas būtiskākais, kas ir jānodrošina pašvaldībām, un lai pašvaldības varētu arī normāli prognozēt nākošos 2-3 gadus, nevis novembrī, decembrī tikai uzzināt, cik te būs šie resursi, kuri nav iezīmētie resursi.
Yeah, we also agree with that. I think we also have that in the report. So it's quite a large share of the unconditional transfers is decided really in the end of the national budget negotiations, and this creates a lot of uncertainty, which is very bad for investment certainty, but also for normal public services. If you just have to wait until the end of the year before you know how much you will be able to spend next year, this is inefficient. What I wanted to say. So yeah, I mean, I can just underline that it's important to find a solution, and yeah, I think you are in discussions at the moment, and maybe you can still look also at other countries how they have solved this problem, but for sure there needs to be a reform of the system.
If I understood one comment from chair that lack of trust in public administration maybe should strengthen through local governments as well in Latvia, and I think our recommendation to update cadastral values based on regularly updating them based on market prices is really one way to go to boost inequality, to boost equality and raise trust to governments. And this will also boost the autonomy of revenue autonomy of municipalities and make them less dependent on funds, for instance, that come from the equalization fund. And of course, this also still consider preserving vulnerable households, primary residents for primary homeowners, the tax rates can be lower, but it's really important to reflect market prices to cadastral values.
Jā, liels paldies par šo. Viens komentārs. Priekšsādātājs uzsvēra, ka Latvijā sabiedrības uzticēšanās publiskajā sektorā tieši pašvaldībām ir daudz lielāka nekā centrālajai varai. Un līdz ar to nodrošinot, ka pašvaldības joprojām var saglabāt šo sabiedrības uzticēšanās līmeni pašvaldībām. Un šobrīd šī arī ir kaut kādā mērā šis 24. gads ir ar finanšu problēmām, kad pašvaldības vienkārši samazina savus sniedzamos pakalpojumus. Un līdz to šis ir arī caur finansēm šis saglabāt šo iedzīvotāju uzticēšanās līmeni pašvaldībām. Bet jūsu pieminētais kadastrālā vērtēšana, liels paldies, ka jūs savā ziņojumā pieminējāt šīs sistēmiskās metodoloģijas problēmas, jo tās un arī tieši šo atbildīgās valsts aģentūras kapacitātes problemātiku. Jo, ja vienkārši kā iepriekš nemainot šo metodoloģiju, vienkārši tiks paceltas vērtības, tad šī nevienlīdzība palielināsies, un tas ir tas primārais. Diemžēl mums iepriekšējos gados, vairākus, kaut kur 10 gadus, šī Valsts zemes dienests ir tikai runājis par to, ka viņi pacels vidēji šīs vērtības, nenodrošinot šo taisnīgumu starp šiem objektiem. Un no mūsu skatu punkta šis taisnīgums, kad šīs dārgāk vērtētiem īpašumiem arī kadastrālām vērtībām ir jābūt lielākām nekā šobrīd, kad viņas ir tādā pašā līmenī kā mazāk vērtētiem tirgu. Tā ir tā būtiskākā problemātika, un tas ir tas pirmais solis, kas vispirms jāveic.
Jā, pirmām kārtām jau jūsu ziņojumā ir tiešām daudz ļoti vērtīgu atziņu, un mēs viņus noteikti izmantosim diskusijā ar Finanšu ministriju par to, kādā veidā veidot. Es vienīgais varbūt vēl gribēju vēlreiz pievērst uzmanību, ka abi šie progresivitātes gadījumi, gan saistībā ar iedzīvotāju ienākumu nodokli, gan saistībā ar potenciāli nekustamā īpašuma nodokli, abos gadījumos viņi risina valsts politikas atbildības uzdevumu. Jo valsts kopumā ir atbildīga par to, lai ienākumu nevienlīdzība samazinātos. Un tas, ka valsts par šo lietu pieņem lēmumus, ir pareizi. Bet kas ir nepareizi, kad valsts šo lēmumu pieņem un uzliekot uz pašvaldībām, rada milzīgu ienākumu diferenci starp viņām. Jo tie cilvēki jau nav vainīgi, kas dzīvo, pieņemsim, tajā mazāk atalgotā teritorijā un teritorijā ar mazāk kadastrālo vērtību. Tā nodokļu sistēma ir izveidota šādā veidā, ka viņiem vēl tiek nodrošināti daudz mazāki pakalpojumi. Un šeit ir problēma, kad nevar darīt tā, ka valsts mēroga uzdevumu risina ar pašvaldību iezīmēto naudu. Un tas ir tas, ko mēs tā mazliet mēģinājām pievērst uzmanību. Bet nav jau nekāda iebilduma pret to, ka tiek izlīdzināti līdzekļi, bet jāpaskatās, kā tas ietekmē vietējos pakalpojumus. Bet no otras puses arī jums ir tādi vairāk priekšlikumi, kas tiešām ir ļoti, ļoti atbilstoši, ļoti derīgi, īpaši par to, ka ir jāpalielina nodokļu ieņēmumu pašvaldībām. Tas ir ārkārtīgi svarīgi jūsu viedoklis, jo mums bija diskusija par šo vairākus gadus, un reizēm ministrs apgalvoja gluži pretējo. Jautājums par to, kad ir iespēja arī skatīt šī te sociālā nodokļa daļā, to vienlīdzības lietu, kas ir jūsu tekstā starp galvenajām rekomendācijām. Un daudz citu jautājumu mums tiešām ļoti noderēs, un par to mēs esam ļoti pateicīgi.
Thank you very much. I mean, a country is a complex social organization. There's a lot of different perspectives and interests, and we think that by bringing in some experience from other countries and these recommendations, we can help maybe foster the consensus finding in Latvia in the next years. Yeah. I think as these cadastre values is really something that has shocked us as well. So this is really important to reform the system and to improve the capacity of the State and Land Office, and because if the state is not providing the ground for just taxation, it's really unfair then to ask municipalities to increase the property tax revenue if you have such an discretionary basis of values. Yeah, so we completely agree. And thank you.
Viens komentārs. Mēs būtu pateicīgi, ja šo noteikti jums būs vēl turpmākās diskusijas ar mūsu valdības pārstāvjiem, ka jūs uzsvērtu šo esošo netaisnību tieši šajās katastrālajās vērtībās starp šiem objektiem. Ka ne tikai tā tirgus vērtības palielināšana, bet arī tieši šī taisnīguma nodrošināšana starp šiem īpašumiem ir tas būtiskākais. Jūsu ziņojumā tas ir, bet varbūt tajās gala rekomendācijās tas nav tik ļoti uzsvērts, un vismaz es personīgi baidos, kad vienkārši teiks, ka vienkārši jāpaceļ šīs katastrālās vērtības, nenodrošinot šo sistēmas izmaiņu, kas ir mūsu lielākā baža. Paldies!
Jā, labdien, paldies, ļoti visaptveroši. Pārstāvot Rīgas metropoles apvienību, kas apvieno pašvaldības, kuras pamatā veids iemaksas pašvaldību finanšu izlīdzināšanā, es sadzirdēju tādu mazliet trauksmainu no jums pozīciju par to, ka ir ļoti saprotama formula un ļoti vienkārša. Tomēr ar visiem tiem koeficientiem un komponentiem pašvaldības mainīgos apstākļos nevar izprast un rēķināties, kā gadu no gada mainīsies šīs iemaksas. Un proti to vēlētos tomēr arī sadzirdēt jūsu vērtējumu, jo sanāk, ka pašvaldības, kuras iemaksā, sēdz patstāvīgi to neparedzamo valsts budžeta deficītu un nemainīgajā formulas komponentēm gadu no gada var atšķirties pat par 50% šīs iemaksas, kas būtiski ietekmē pašvaldības, neskatoties uz to, ka ienākumi iespējams viņiem ir lielāki, bet arī būtu jāņem vērā šīs attīstības tendences, kas būtiski atšķirās, jo iedzīvotāju skaits pieaug un pieaug būtiski, tāpēc no vienas puses, jā, formula ir nemainīga, bet no otras puses aprēķins balstoties uz valdības lēmumiem, uz finanšu ministrijas lēmumiem, nav paredzams, nav plānojams uz priekšu.
I think we have talked to our fiscal federal experts at the OECD, but they also have not done a review or a study directly of the formula. So I think participating in this network and maybe engaging with them, that could be something where you could learn more. As if this is really the case that the payments they differ across time by more than 50%, this is very much. I mean, yeah, then probably there's a problem. Huh? I mean, but we would have to look into this in much more detail. So we have a section of 2-3 pages, but we didn't look at the formula in big detail and compare it to other formulas. They just told us that in general the formula only has 3-4 parts, which is already much less than other countries. Like other countries sometimes have an even more complex formula, which is even harder to understand. But I mean, this is a problem if your payments fluctuate that much. But I understand actually that the central government also tries to give now some more planability, at least for PIT for personal income tax revenues, they said that for 3 years they would provide forecasts and forecasted revenues and would stick to that. Okay, but at least they have acknowledged that there is a kind of a problem, and I mean it requires more discussions.
Labdien! Paldies jums par pētījumu un prezentāciju. Skaidrs, ka tas, ko jūs stāstījāt, ir tāds komplekss redzējums gan uz ekonomiku, gan uz valsts pārvaldi, gan uz sociālo attīstību un konkurētspēju. Un tiklīdz tu izmaini vienu elementu, tas mazliet ietekmē citu elementu. Nu, kā piemēram, ja mēs paaugstinām nodokļus, no vienas puses valsts budžetā ir lielāka ieņēmuma, bet no otras puses varbūt biznesiem atkal tas mazliet samazina kaut kāds konkurētspējas elementus. Bet tas, ko mēs esam pašvaldību pārstāvi un skaidrs, ka pēdējos 3-4 gados pašvaldības ir gājuši cauri ļoti lielām pārmaiņām. Jūs paši pieminētā teritoriālā reforma, kas nes sevī līdzi ļoti daudz dažādas, teiksim tā, izlīdzināšanas, piemēram, sociālajā paketē bija ļoti dažādas pieejas un pakalpojumi. Izglītības sistēmā arī bija ļoti dažādi finansējumi un atbalsta mehānismi. Mobilitātes jautājumi, kas izveidojoties lielākiem novadiem, arī ir ļoti, ļoti no svara. Un, protams, arī jānodrošina ir vienmērīgs šis pakalpojumu klāsts un pieejamība daudz lielākās teritorijās, kas, protams, arī pašvaldībām uzliek lielāks izaicinājums pakalpojumu nodrošināšanā un sniegšanā. Un, protams, piekrītot tām lietām, ko jūs minējāt par banku sektoru un kreditēšanu un tur mums ir tāda mazliet tāda kaķis ar peli, tāda spēle. No vienas puses banka saka, mums ir naudas tik, cik vajag, uzņēmumi paši nenāk pakaļ, uzņēmumi atkal stāstā, kad viņiem nav tik vienkārši to finansējumu saņemt. Un grūti saprast, kur tur tā īsti, vai nu kaķis ķer peli vai peli bēg no kaķa, bet gan jau laiks to visu saliks pa vietām. Bet katrā ziņā, tad novadu reforma, energokrīze, kas arī prasīja ļoti straujas pārējas un risinājums, kreditēšanas procentu kāpums un tā tālāk. Faktiski pēdējos 3-4 gadus pašvaldības ir cīnījušās tādā izdzīvošanas režīmā, ja tā varētu teikt. Līdz ar to tā mūsu galvenā tas uztraukums, satraukums vai tā sāp ir šis finansiālais prognozējumība, ja tā varētu teikt, un spēja rēķināties ne tikai ar 1 gada budžetu, bet rēķināties ar kaut kādu pašvaldības investīciju programmu un attīstību vismaz vidējā termiņā. Jo deputāti un politiķi ir ievēlēti uz 4 gadiem, un viņiem nosacīti ir jāspēj plānot un nodrošināt novada attīstību vismaz to termiņu 4 gadus, kamēr viņi vada šo vienu vai otru pašvaldību. Tā kā es domāju, ka jūsu darbs ir vērā ņemams un es ceru, ka dialogs turpināsies par šo pašvaldību finanšu stabilitāti un tādu prognozējumību. Paldies!
Thanks a lot. Just on this topic of competitiveness, for sure there's a balance to strike, but if you ask companies, the main issue actually for investment is skilled labor shortages in Latvia, and then is access to finance, infrastructure, and only then I think comes the tax question. So using more or increased tax revenue for well planned and done infrastructure investments, for investing in training and improving the labor force is something which is efficiency improving, which improves the competitiveness of Latvian firms. So it's also a problem, a little bit of short-termism, probably also of the business sector. I think the problem of tax competitiveness is really not the main issue for competitiveness. We really think it's a lack of business dynamism, a lack of competition in the domestic business sector, a lack of access to finance as well. So I think there's some room of increasing tax revenue and invest it well. But then on the other hand, you also need to make sure that the capacity of the state to invest this money well and to use to spend the money well is also super important. And we also talk about this in the report. And also at the local level, there's room for improvement, especially with the territorial reform. Now you can use synergies maybe in infrastructure planning to join the capacity of the different municipalities to plan infrastructure projects. To also in education, I think there's still room for improving the school network, to have some schools where maybe the monitoring and the teacher training could be better done than in some very small schools. But it's obviously a sensitive topic, and we understand this is really something the population and the all stakeholders have to decide together. But there can be some positive efficiency gains and also some quality of services gains if you join resources across municipalities. But it's a complicated question, we understand.
Es tikai vēl vienu mazu komentāriņu, ko es piemirstu pateikt. Faktiski ar nelieliem izņēmumiem pašvaldību attīstības resurss šobrīd ir vairāk vai mazāk tikai struktūra fondu vai Eiropas Savienības fondu finansējums. Kaut kur aizņēmumi vēl ir kredīti, pareizāk sakot, bet faktiski no pašu budžeta tās iespējas finansēt publiskās infrastruktūras attīstību ir ļoti ierobežotas. Līdz ar to faktiski tas pamatā pašvaldības, tad, kad runā par kārtējo budžetu, runā par to, kā sastādīt bāzes budžetu pašvaldības nepārtrauktības nodrošināšanai. Un tad investīcijas ir vairāk vai mazāk struktūra fondi vai aizņēmumi.
This is a big problem. We already talked about in the survey in 2019, the last survey. So that is another reason actually why structurally improving the domestic tax base is important, to have long-term planning and to finance public investment out of your own tax base and not be dependent on the funding cycle of the EU. This is because having this funding cycle creates uncertainty, and also implementation of new regulation then postpones projects. So we encountered that some of the EU funds are actually not spent because regulation changes, administrative burden is high, and then actually people have problems in applying, also realizing actually that there's a new program and things change all the time. So it's important to have a stable funding base for public investment as well. Yeah.
Ja, manuprāt, par šiem visiem jautājumiem mēs varam runāt bezgalīgi ilgi. Katra no problēmām ir arī gana dziļa. Vienlaicīgi man jāsaka paldies arī par jūsu vēlmi un atsaucību runāt par problēmām arī atsevišķās sarunās arī attālināti. Un lai mēs gala rezultātā tomēr saprastu, ka ir jābūt tiem līdzekļiem apakšā pirmā līmenī uz vietas piedzīvotājiem, un arī jūsu secinājums par šiem pietiekamu, stabilu līdzekļu nodrošinājumu pašvaldību līmenī. Vēlreiz paldies par šodien. Jā.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, it was a pleasure to discuss with you. Thank you.